What's up, guys? Welcome to Powerline Podcast. My name is Ryan Lucas. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. All right, if I could ask one favor from each of you before we get going is to make sure you're subscribed or following on whatever platform you're listening to this on or watching it on. YouTube would be great. Most of you don't know that we have a YouTube channel. I'd really love you to go over and check out YouTube. And if you're there, hit that follow button. We're trying to build that up because we've done a lot of work on this studio and it looks freaking awesome. So hopefully you get over there and check that out. This week, I sit down with a good friend of mine. I met Madison, probably 3-4 years ago now. Madison is, it's Madison Jefferson. Madison is a Marine Corps veteran that now pours his heart and soul into helping vets find the electrical industry, and not just electrical industry, but line work, in more specifically power line work, and becoming linemen. Madison is the conduit that helps these vets find their way in, nurtures them through a program called the Veteran Electrical Entry Program, and gets them out into the industry working. You learn all about the program, learn how it come to be, and all the players involved, and how you can apply if you're a vet. Learn that in the episode. You don't want to miss this one, so let's jump right in. Madison, we tried this about 3 years ago at the side of a lake, trying to catch some catfish. It wasn't too much of a successful trip, that one, was it?
No, it wasn't. No. As you know, not a huge fan of cameras.
Ignore them. They're not even there. It's conversation. It's you and I.
Well, it's all good.
You and I sitting beside the lake.
So I was driving up here today, and I thought maybe this isn't something I want to do. But at the end of the day, I said, I'm just talking to Ryan, and how many conversations have you and I had? About
1,000 or more.
Like having some cigars sitting on the back porch of a cabin. Yeah. So it's like, well, I'm just talking to Ryan. That's what I'm doing.
Well, I appreciate you signing up for it. I think it's been a long time since that. Like a lot of time has passed in that 3 years. Both have done a lot of growing. Yeah.
And a lot's been accomplished.
Exactly. A lot's been accomplished, right? Yeah. And it's like worth talking about. Yeah. It's also part of our job. So we can really just think of it in that way too. It's like, this is what we're here to do. We're here to help, your case, help veterans find their way to this trade or other trades within, the industries. And it's important to talk about it, right? It's a good way to get it out.
So what you just said, and that's another reason why, again, not a huge fan of being on camera, but at the same time, I have a responsibility with veterans, being one, Mr. Colson, who created it, but also with Quanta for providing that opportunity. So what am I doing if I'm not providing that information, what Quanta's doing for veterans? Yeah. So I'm like, I'm good with it. Let's go.
The platform's bigger too. And I just always laugh. I tell people this story all the time. I'm sure you do too. But when I decided to make the first couple TikTok videos promoting the VEEP program, and remember I said something to you like, hey, pay attention in the next little bit, see if you notice a difference. And I made a post, and within 24 hours, you had some ridiculous number of applications that you'd never seen before for a program. I get this call from Madison later, and it's like, what the hell did you just do? I'm like, I don't know. I just made a post about the vet program. And he's like, yeah, well, we just doubled our annual applications in the last 24 hours. He's like, you realize I got to interview every single one of these guys. I'm like, sorry, bro, but we're trying to prove a point. And I guess we proved it.
So what happens is Jason will reach out to myself or Britannia, BB, and he'll go, okay, where was Madison, or what did Ryan do because he gets this huge influx of individuals applying for the program.
Yeah.
And then, so he's sending us, 25, 50 emails saying this person's ready to be interviewed. Whenever you put something out, or I go to a military base to speak about the program, there's this huge influx. And Jason is with the ETA.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what did you and Ryan do? Like, one of you did something. And there's this blast of emails saying, interview this person, interview that person. So at the end of the day, what you do, like, as far as the industry,
it's one of the reasons I'm here. It's one of the reasons why this podcast still exists, and we're able to like have all these cameras and lights and actually put this, present it beautifully, put it on the internet, put it on YouTube, put it everywhere, is because it works. And that was like one of the very beginning things that started to like turn people's attention, the right people's attention towards, hey, maybe there's something to this social media thing, quote unquote, right? It was like, wow, okay, it works. It's not just for kids, to get lost in. It's actually a tool that we can use to reach people.
So the veterans that I interview, one of the first few questions that I ask them, how did you hear about the program? And it's almost like they feel embarrassed that they heard it through social media to tell me that. Like, all of you tell me that. Like, you all heard it through social media, and they say Powerline Podcast. I'm like, Ryan, like, you saw Ryan's podcast, and they're like, yeah. And that's what it is. I'm like, just say it. Yeah. Like, that's you're modernizing, what occurs in the world. Yeah. It's social media. Like, that's the communication nowadays. Yeah. And you don't, if you ignore it, you're only going to hurt yourself. That's my opinion.
What I love is like the positive impact from it. So when I was an instructor with you guys, I got to see like firsthand witness once I'd put out a post like that and connect through comments or DMs, or just realize that one of the students that came into the program, or one or more of the students that came into the program, were vets, and they found it in that way. So I helped an individual who really didn't know what the heck they were going to do once they hit civilian world, find a career that clicked with them. Like, something about it just in that stage has already clicked. And they were like, damn, I've never knew about this before. And I never knew this existed. Why didn't I know about this? And then they see the heights and the travel and the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the servant heart nature of it, really, when you're out on storm and you get to help people. That's everything that a vet is. A certain type of vet, it's not for everyone, but it really connects with that community. So I got to help connect them to this thing that is the line trade. And then being an instructor, I got to like help them with their first beginning stages of understanding what this career is, and help get them excited about it, help them find this thing. And now I've seen over the last few years, still stay in touch and connected with a few of them, and just to see how they're flourishing. Like, a few of them are almost ready to top out already. And it's friggin' awesome to see. Like, it's awesome. It's totally turned their life around. They found a career that they love. And that's really like what it's all about. That's why I created the original post. It's not for fame and fortune and all that shit, because it didn't pay at the time, but that's what it was for. And it's amazing. It's really cool.
So with you saying that, so if you look at the foundation of Quanta Services, Mr. Colson, he was drafted, Vietnam, Army. And after he completed his time in the military, he took a part-time job with Power Electric. And from there, you fast forward to, it was like 97, 98. He purchased it. And then from there, he started creating what Quanta is now. but it all is based off of he was unsure of what he was going to do whenever he exited the military, and myself included. You spend, I don't know, like for me, 8 years pulling the trigger, fighting for the country, to now you're no longer going to be a part of the military. What do I do now? And that's what John was trying to create. He was trying to create an opportunity for other service members, men and women of the military. Here's an opportunity. Get into this, because it created a secure future for him. Now he's in a position where he can create a secure future for other service men and women.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that's the biggest thing that I appreciate about Quanah, is what they're providing to other veterans.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. This is so dope. Okay, we're going to dive into that. Let's back up for 5 seconds here.
Sure.
I want to learn a little bit about where you come from, who you are. So tell me about where you come from.
So, name's Madison Jefferson. And people always ask about that name, Madison Jefferson, where it comes from. So I'm Native American, and come from the Choctaw tribe here in America. And what occurred, the Trail of Tears. So it was my dad's uncle, so it'd be my great uncle. Whenever they completed the Trail of Tears, they had to register under English names, and the ones that they knew were famous or common. And to us, or to them, King was a name. So the very first Jefferson, my family, took on the last name King. King Jefferson. He thought it was a name. And then he named one of his siblings, children, my great uncle, named him Madison after the president. And we took on the last name Jefferson after the president. That's all we knew. It was famous or common names. Yeah. So then my dad, unique story about him. He was actually born in 1927. There's this joke in our family that our dad started having kids whenever he was 30, and he just didn't stop. There's 13 of us. Damn,
I knew that, but I had to be reminded of that. I forgot. Yeah. Totally forgot. 13. What's the spread between you guys?
So there is an age gap, as in
at least 13 years, hopefully.
There's 6 of us that are younger, where the other 7 could actually be our parents. But they're our brothers and sisters. 2 different wives.
Wow.
Yeah. So what happened was this old man had trouble with eyesight. So my dad was 18, 19 years old, and this old man in the area wanted to get to his family in Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere in there. So my dad drove him out there, and he said, if you drive me out here, you can keep the truck. So my dad drove him out there, and he was 18, 19. So he did. And instead of coming home, what he did was he bounced around as a ranch hand between New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, different states.
Sure.
And he finally came home whenever he was pushing into his 30s.
And home is where?
Grew up in Arkansas. I say I grew up in Arkansas. This was the Oklahoma area. So from there, he comes home, met his first wife, Debbie. Beautiful lady. She really is. They had kids together. And then, sometime after that, he met my mom, Julie, and had kids with her. So that's why it's a joke. Like, well, he didn't start till he was in his 30s, and he just didn't stop. Because he was in his 60s whenever I was created, I guess you could say. Anyways.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. So from there, I grew up small town, DeQueen, Arkansas, and we have a National Guard unit there, part of the Army. And whenever 9/11 hit, there was a bunch of individuals from that community that were sent over there to Iraq. And, you know, we were 15, 16 years old during that time. And whenever they were activated, that's what you would call it, and they came back, a handful of them didn't come back. And we felt like with us turning 18, it was our responsibility to, I guess, honor what they did. So there was 6, 7 of us from my graduating class of 92 that enlisted to be in the military, and that's what led me to be in the Marine Corps.
So like, it's just a friend group of yours that you guys kind of had that. That's interesting.
So
because usually it's like it's a family member or something. So you got nobody else from your family that had joined the service, or?
Yeah. So I had an uncle that joined in World War II. But that wasn't the reason.
Sure.
It was
you and your friend group seeing
our community.
Yeah.
As in, we wanted to honor what they had done and not came back from.
Did you know these guys that went over?
I didn't know them personally. Okay. So one of my best friends growing up, Daniel Aarons, his dad went over there. And then you could see the I guess you could say the hurt that he experienced from being over there and losing his friends, and being a cocky 17-year-old kid. You like, I'll take that fight on.
Sure,
I'll go. Yeah. So that essentially that's what led me to the Marine Corps.
Was within your community, is there that sort of like real sense of service within the community you grew up in anyway, or was this more specific to just like your friend group that was like, hey, we need to go do something, or is this something that the community really kind of does and fosters on a whole?
Oh, absolutely. It's the community, as in, I'll say this, DeQueen, Arkansas, small town Arkansas. It's a community that we protect our own. We're going to take care of our own. And it's always been that way. And pretty proud about that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an individual. It's all of us. And I couldn't be prouder to grow up there. That's Arkansas. That's where I grew up. That's where I'm from. That's where I'll always claim. And again, we were high school kids, and we felt threatened.
Yeah.
As in, some of these people didn't come home, and we took offense to it. So we stood up, we graduated, we enlisted. Some of us went to the Army, some of us went to the Marine Corps. That's my community, and I'm proud of it.
Did you guys, is this something you guys all did together, or it just kind of happened at the same time kind of thing?
There wasn't a communication.
Okay.
I was
wondering if you guys all got together, okay, this is what we're doing.
No, there wasn't a communication.
Yeah.
As in, we didn't say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It was just each one of us found a home with the Army, the Marine Corps, wherever we went, Air Force. We just took it upon ourselves.
Why the Marine Corps?
Ooh, it's a good question.
Proud Marine, I know.
Yeah, very proud of it. Very. Okay, so
like what?
Why the Marine Corps?
Rephrase this. Why the Marine Corps then? Versus like what you know now and what you've been through, you would never even choose anything else or think of anything else. I know that about you, but why then? Why'd you have that inclination then? What made you choose?
So if you were going into a fight, who would you want to be with?
You just wanted to fight.
No. I didn't want to fight. Like, I'm okay with the fight.
Sure. Okay.
But if I'm going into a fight, who am I going to go with?
I'll let you answer that.
Well, and this isn't to bash on.
I know what I'll say just because you're standing in the room with me.
This isn't to bash on any other branch.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just at the time.
I get what you're saying.
From what I've heard.
Yeah.
Like, Marines were solid. Like, they really put you through the ringer. They made you earn it. They made you fight for it. And whenever you get over there, they're not going to back down. So the reason why I chose the Marines is, well, if I'm going to go into this fight, then I want that person and that person to fight. That's why I chose the Marines. And oddly enough, like, I didn't understand it the same way that veterans coming into this industry don't understand it. They don't understand it as far as...
Haven't lived it.
They haven't lived it. Okay? So whenever I first enlisted in the Marine Corps, I was actually motor T, like working on vehicles. And then a situation arose, and the lead recruiter, he came to me and he said, pretty sure this isn't what you should be doing. Go to the infantry. I said, okay. So I went to the infantry. And like, essentially, all phases of my life have been opportunities arising where I just say, makes sense. Okay, let's go. So I went from motor T. He said go infantry, so I went infantry. And I'm going through boot camp, and that's a beautiful scene in the Marine Corps. Trust me, there's nothing pretty about it. And I'm going through it, and there was the sergeant major that was in charge of boot camp, like that area, and he saw me run the obstacle course, and he said, well, what was it? It's not MARSOC. It's a different unit. He said, you should look into going into this. And I said, no, I'm going to the infantry. And he said, let me see you run the obstacle course. So I'm in boot camp, and he tells me to run it again. And keep in mind, he's in charge of everybody. So he's sitting back, and he's watching, and everyone else is pulled off to the side. And tells me to take off, run the obstacle course. And, you know, it's different things that you have to go through. He was impressed with the first time that he saw me run it. And my drill instructor, we called him, this one was called the kill hat. Basically, they just discipline you.
Yeah.
He sees me running outside of the group, and he doesn't understand or comprehend that the sergeant major just told me to do this. So I take off running, and then I see him running at me. And I was like, well, I can piss him off or I can piss him off. I'm not going to piss him off. So I keep running, and he's yelling at me to stop because he doesn't understand why I'm running. And I'm going through the obstacle course, and he's just dead sprint. Tackles me. Boom! And why aren't you in formation? Well, this recruit was told by the sergeant major to run the obstacle course again, sir. That's why I'm doing it. And he picks me up, drags me back to the formation, and the sergeant major's over there laughing. And I'm like, welcome to the Marine Corps.
I did it on purpose.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
Dang, dude. What do you think it was that guy saw in you when you're working on equipment or whatever you're slated to do first? What do you think it is that he saw in you the reason he said, hey, this probably isn't for you?
To be honest, I don't want to say this just because I don't want to be braggadocious, if that's the word.
It's a good word.
What had happened was I was out on the river with some buddies. I was still in high school. I still had probably 3-4 months before I had to go to boot camp. And then that recruiting location, they had an event that they were going to hold close to my area. So I was out on the river having a good time with the buddies. And they had reached out to me that day and said, hey, can you come here and attend the recruiting event? And I was like, sure. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that. And I showed up. A buddy of mine dropped me off. And one of the Marines that was attending the event, he said, you shouldn't be having a good time and then come here. And I said, I got dropped off. But he kept chirping. He kept running his mouth. And I was a cocky 17-year-old kid. And I was like, there's a parking lot out there. Like, we can go. Like, I'm good with it. So this guy goes back and he tells the lead recruiter, and instead of calling me to chew my ass, he calls me and he says, you're not going motor T. You should be in the infantry. And then that's how that occurred.
Sure.
So, and then even from there, initially I started off in the infantry as a rifleman. But then whenever I got to MOS school, is what they call it, I'm going through it, and they said, how about a machine gunner? So I went to that. And then it just all kind of developed from there.
There's another thing that you said a little while ago that I talk about this quite a bit, saying yes. And just, I've seen a lot these days, well, not even just these days, last 10 years, I've been in recruiting for line workers. I was doing the recruiting for like 5 years, recruiting, signing up linemen, and then managing, placing line workers on different jobs and things like that. And I always really appreciated those guys that were like, yeah, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
But you didn't always have that. You quite often had guys that were just like, oh, I got this happening here and this happening there. And I understand life, and you got a personal life, and you got things to do, and that's cool. Awesome. But it's pretty friggin' beneficial to say yes once in a while. And not just once in a while, but like sign up and do things. And when you do that, it opens doors and gives you opportunity, right? And people always are like, oh, I never get that. I never get opportunities to do anything. It's like, yeah, you do. You just didn't say yes the first time, because the next yes you were going to say gave you that big opportunity that you never even got to because you didn't say yes to begin with. But you'll never know because you didn't say yes. You said no. You decided to go to a concert or whatever.
Yeah.
Go do whatever you're going to do. And especially when you're young and you got maybe some of these other responsibilities that you don't have in life, and they're really just like personal want tos versus really have to. Like, I understand when you got kids and a family, and you gotta say no sometimes, and then they're first, so that's cool. You're saying yes to them versus yes to work. I understand that. But I'm talking about when you're a kid, like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, like right till you're 30 years old. If you're not tied down, if you don't got kids, say yes to everything, and it'll blow the doors open for you. Wants versus needs. And you don't even have to answer the question. I liked what you said about, like, you were saying yes. It was like, yes, sir. Partially probably because you had to, you said to say yes to everything. Or somebody above you said to do something. You're like, yes, sir, let's go. All right, I'm happy to do that. And in the civilian world, you get this choice that you don't get in the military. If someone above you says go do something. But what you get out here in the civilian world is, and in the line trade, is like you ask somebody to do something and it's like, nah, I got this other thing planned. I'm good. And all I'm saying is like, I understand that everyone's got a personal life and they need to go do some things and want to do things in life, but don't be the guy that's also asking why you never get an opportunity, you know, within the trade or in the industry to go do that cool job or get on that good crew, that bare hand crew, that whatever, because you don't say yes to anything. That's probably the starter of everything. Every time we ask you to go do something that we need getting done, it's like a no or maybe, or you don't even pick up the phone. So right away, that's, you know, that's your choice. Just own the choice then. That's what you chose. Don't be also the guy that's complaining about never getting the opportunity to go get on those jobs and those crews and get that big money or whatever that is, because you're not saying yes to anything. So it's like, it's your own fault.
Yep.
You know, and the opportunity's there. You just got to say yes once in a while.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. So funny story, whenever I was sent to San Diego, I mean, this was the first time, like, boot camp. And whenever I showed up, my buddies in high school that were going to college, and then I was going to the Marine Corps, took me out drinking, having a good time. Ended up being into a fight with the bouncers and so on and so forth. And so I showed up. What happened was I showed up to boot camp with taser burns and black eye, and it was pretty funny. So the drill instructors, they said, "Oh, we got a tough guy." I was like, "No, I just got my ass whooped." You know what I mean? Like, no,
yeah,
not a tough guy. I just got worked over like 24 hours ago. And they gave me a hard time about it. Anyways, so in the Marine Corps, you have boot camp, and there's it's called the guide. They wear a brassard. It's basically a patch saying you're in charge of responsibilities that the drill instructors don't want to handle. So there was one individual that, it's called getting fired. They fired him from being the guide, and they were going around the room, and you know, I still got a black eye. I've still got taser burns from this fight from like 3-4 days ago. And they said, "Who wants to be the guide?" As in, who wants to manage the platoon? And I'm sitting there like, I don't want to be here, let alone be the guy. Like, I'm good. Because they were already giving me shit because of all that. And the drill instructor walks up, and he's got the brassard in his hand, and he shoves it in my chest. And he goes, "That's your job." I was like, I don't want to be here, let alone that. I'm good. So for the next, I don't know, 2 weeks, they put me through the ringer. There was one time and anybody watching this, Marine Corps, what they did, I condone it 100%. They made me a better person. So there was one time they took me into the head. That's the washroom. And had me fill up a canteen, fill it up, drink it, and then they smoked me, as in push-ups, jumping jack, whatever, you know? And then they kept doing it, and I wasn't backing down, as in, you're not going to break me, like, I'm good. And then before I knew it, I'm like, I'm throwing up. I am throwing up, like all this water.
Yeah.
And we had to go somewhere, so I thought it was all said and done. Like, as in, hey, I'm good. Told you. I'm good.
I'm hydrated.
Yeah, I'm good. So then probably about that night, probably about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I get woken up. So as the guide, there's like all the racks, beds, they're bunk beds, except for the guide's rack, which was mine at the time. It's by itself. And I wake up because it got flipped on top of me. So I go flying, I wake up, and I look, and I'm ready to fight. And then I'm ready to fight. And the drill instructor is on top of me. And he said, Jefferson, the success or the failure of this platoon is on you. You can talk about yourself all day. As in you can focus on yourself all day. And he goes, but there's 60 other people here. If they fail, it's because you failed them. And then so I wake up, or not wake up, I get up and I start putting my rack together. And the whole time I had this ego, this attitude. As in I was just fighting for myself. I should have been fighting for them. And then so from that day forward, I focused my energy, like everything, on them. Those guys. I made that my focus.
There's so much there that I think is valuable, and that is a lot and a piece of what the line trade is to so many, and then so many others don't get to see that side of it. Like, I talk about the brotherhood all the time, and I see it on social media every time I mention something like the brotherhood, sisterhood that exists within the line trade. I see comments that are like, bullshit, that doesn't exist out there, that's nothing but a bunch. And I just feel bad for those people that are saying that, because they obviously don't have that same experience. And I wonder why, because throughout my whole almost 30 years in this industry now, I've experienced nothing but the brotherhood, sisterhood. Like, everyone, it seems, that I've met, and maybe it's just the people that I'm attracted to or whatever that I attract around me, developed really great relationships with them. And this trade's like my family. But I wish that existed more out there, and I wish that everybody in the trade got to experience that exact thing. Like, you know, we're not fighting for our country or anything in the trade, but we can still apply that principle that we're doing this job for the guy beside you. You know, like, you work very close quarters with another guy that has a family and kids and a wife or whatever right beside you in the bucket. If you let that guy down, he might not go home.
Yep.
Fact. Full stop. Like, he might not go home, and that's not necessarily just his fault. You know, what could you have done different that day to ensure that he does go home, and that you go home, and the guy on the ground goes home, you know? And like, you have to be thinking about that.
How many times have you been on a job site where, like, storm work, and your family is somewhere else, and you're concerned about them, you're concerned about you, and you're concerned about the person next to you in the bucket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're fighting for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever it comes to that, the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do is because every aspect, from being in the military to what linemen do, it works hand in hand. And that's the reason, is because whenever you're in that bucket, you're worried about him. You're worried about your family. You're worried about that community. And you're doing everything to get their power running. You're worried about your family because you're not there. You're worried about the guy next to you. Whenever I say it's hand in hand, 100%.
That's what you mean.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. You move through all phases of training, obviously, and you mentioned machine gunner. That's what you deployed as? First go?
Two
times? 2 tours? Where to? Where'd you operate?
So the first one was the 11th MU. I mean, took us to different countries, and during that time it was the whole pirates going through the strait there in Africa.
Okay. Somalia, those pirates. And
yep.
Okay.
That was our area.
What did you get into? Like, what kind of countries did you get into?
Dubai, Bahrain, Africa, I think Australia. I'd have to look it up, but I mean, we were all over the place. So essentially what happens is the Marine Corps is the only military branch that can be sent out by the president without approval through, I think it's the Senate. So he can send us anywhere for 90 days. So what happens is the Navy and the Marine Corps, they travel around on ship, just going to different locations. And it's so if something does happen, he can kick us out, as in go.
Yeah.
Like be the pit bulls.
You're already in area.
Yeah. Kick us out. It's funny. During that time, Djibouti, Africa, we were there, and so the Marine Corps is real big on tradition. Like linemen, they're real big on tradition. That's another thing that attracts military people to line work, tradition. So if you re-enlist in the Marine Corps, you get to choose the setting in which you re-enlist. There's a formation, as in everyone's standing there and they watch you re-enlist. While we were going through the straits just outside the Horn of Africa, there was a Marine that wanted to re-enlist, and he had said, I want it in the ocean. So then all of us, there's probably 500 to 1,000 that had to go out into the ocean during his re-enlistment ceremony. And then the locals there in Djibouti, Africa, they said, there's a lot of sharks. We didn't know. We're not from there. 500
of you out there.
Yeah, and we're all standing there recognizing the ceremony. And then whenever I talk about traditions, again, it goes right into the line trade. There's these traditions that you guys have whenever somebody tops out, teaching somebody how to climb. Like I had probably 3-4 linemen before I showed up to the line school at the Lazy Q, standing there, or not standing, like they're on the truck and they're showing me how to do it. Rob Mitchell, he pulled out his hooks, and these things look like they're from like the 1970s. You know what I mean?
Passed down 3 times. Yeah.
So Rob goes, put these on. So I put them on, and he goes, climb the pole. And then I fumbled my way through it, like prom night. You know what I mean?
100%. Put them on the wrong foot. Climb up inside of a barrel.
Yeah. So I fumbled my way through it, and then then they start coaching me. And I guess, in my opinion, that was the moment that they took me serious, as in, I give a shit about this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, whenever a storm hit in Louisiana, and it was Rob and Fuji, what they would do is they would write out equations for weights and forces. And whenever we couldn't work, as in we had to cab up, they'd throw me that paper and say, solve this. And then I'd have to go through weights and forces. Whenever we would end the day, I'd be back at the hotel room, go up there, go to sleep. But before I went up there, they would hand me another piece of paper. Solve this, have it tomorrow, as in they were educating me. And whenever I showed up to the Lazy Q, like, this is another day. Like,
I got
they
this.
already prepped me. They already prepared me. And always appreciate it about the individuals that came from Canada that come down here and work with Quanta. They weren't just using me as a worker. They were educating me. They were teaching me what I'm encountering, what I'm about to be involved with.
Yeah.
So
I talk about this all the time. Apprentice master, what I call it apprentice master relationship, but it's really just like it's trades, it's craft skilled labor, and your responsibilities as a lineman, journeyman lineman, as a representative of the trade, of the craft that you've spent your life doing, is like your responsibility to bring up the people below you, or to help bring up the people below you. You can't shun that responsibility. It's not right. It's not right at all. You have to, not everyone's a teacher. I did some instructing, I did some teaching. I wouldn't call myself a great teacher in that sense, like stand up in front of a whiteboard and teach, but places where I did fairly well at were helping guys in the climbing yard, doing stuff like this, learning how to podcast and share a message. This is teaching. This is the responsibility we have, flat out. Dead serious. You wouldn't survive in the military without the vets teaching the guys coming up behind them a thing or two, right? Like, you can't send all the rookies into battle. You got to have somebody there to kind of hold their hand and show them kind of the ropes.
Yep. Yeah. No, 100%. Okay. So with that being said, so you speaking on individuals having that responsibility to educate, to build them up as apprentices, right? The same thing happens in the military. So boot camp. People always talk about yelling. Why do you yell in the military? Why? Do you know why?
You've told me before, so I'll let you answer.
Okay. All right. The reason why you yell is whenever it comes to a kinetic environment, as in whenever a fight starts.
It's loud.
You're not going to be talking to each other. Yeah. Like, as in, there's a lot of guns going off. You're going to be yelling.
Yeah.
You have to recognize somebody's voice when they're yelling. You have to be able to recognize it. Like, you and I can talk just like this right now, but whenever there's shit going on, will I recognize your voice? That's why you yell in, like, boot camp. They're teaching you the foundations.
And there's a difference. I would think there's in and amongst that. I haven't really been in that situation, so this is just totally speculative. But there's kind of a way to yell calmly, if that's a way to do it. You know what I mean? Like, people can come up under a stressful situation and start. The way I saw it is when shit was starting to go south in the line trade, and you were doing something like string and wire, and things are starting to go sideways, and you got guys just on the radio, stop. Like, they're freaking out because adrenaline's hit them now. Things are loud, things are happening. They're freaking out. But I would assume there's a way to, like, yell calmly almost, so that you can, like, you're talking, but you're just yelling.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So whenever I first showed up to the job site with the bare hand crew, not familiar, like 100% not familiar with any of it. And whenever they first bonded on and you hear that, that was me. Like,
yeah.
Because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And it was, so the whole yelling aspect. So if somebody said, don't touch the truck, and they yelled, because of my military experience, I understood if they're yelling, it's pressing. So, job site, I didn't understand it. And that's the big part, is the education, understanding something, like, as in what you're doing. So the first time I held a grenade, it was like, you want me to pull this? And then throw it. Okay, I got you, right? But at the same time, I'm thinking, you know what I mean? Like, you're intimidated.
Yeah, dude.
And that's the same reason why whenever they bond on and you hear that, you duck. but you don't have that understanding yet.
Yeah.
Yet, that's the key word. So whenever they would yell or say something, like I knew it carried importance. Like as in, they're saying it for a reason. And it's not to benefit them, it's to benefit you and not make a mistake. So I always appreciate
I like this because this is showing an example of the guys that are doing it right. So there's yelling, and I've talked about it with a few guys on the show. Is like there's yelling in the other sense of the word, like just yelling at the guy for the sake of yelling at the guy. And that's a way a lot of guys like to train, and it's silly. You can't just like jump off a truck and start yelling at people. Like they're not going to learn. But another reason why you recognized when they were yelling at you that it carried some significance and some importance is because these are the same guys that are nurturing and caring and teaching you weights and forces, teaching you how to climb. They're the same guy that's taking you under their wing and going, this is how we do this craft. Yep. So if they're going to yell at you, it's probably going to be freaking serious.
There's a reason.
Because I've got that respect now. I've got that, there's a reason for it. They're not just yelling for no reason.
Yep.
So that's the difference, guys, that I'm talking about here. That's a perfect way to lay it out. I like that.
Rob Mitchell. I was maybe a week into the job site, and I was putting a hand line into one of the buckets. I was a groundsman. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm just shoving it in there. And he walks up to me, and he said, he dumped it out, and he goes, "If you're going to do something, do it right." And then, but as he's saying it, he's showing me how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, as in, if you're going to do something, do it right. And how can you not respect that part of the industry, like that part of the trade? As in, you can call me a dumbass all day, but show me.
Yeah.
Like, show me what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated that. And weights and forces with Fuji, with Rob, whenever they would write it out, as in they would take the time to write out the equations and what to do. Yeah. And that wasn't to benefit them.
No.
Like, that was to benefit me.
Yeah.
And I always, I always respected that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's the same thing in the military.
100%.
So, I don't know, 4 something years into it, I get introduced into the sniper community. And if you ever talk to a sniper, how you know if they really went through it is ask them, what's the best part of being a sniper? Because I've been asked that. And I always say, you get a cool hoodie, the rest of it's miserable. Like, it's miserable. And the reason why I say that is just simple things, but it's teaching, it's educating you. So if we were going somewhere, let's say we were in the classroom, they were teaching us something, and then it was time for chow, to go to the cafeteria and eat. You had to run. You were a pig. If you're a pig, you're running everywhere. But it's to teach you, 1, don't get seen. 2, it's developing that physical ability, right? It's all education. And then the pig and hog thing, that's another tradition in the Marine Corps, which we can get into if you want to.
Heck yeah.
All right. So what happens is you go through an indoctrination. Basically, you're trying out to be in the Marine Corps. And mine was fun. So What happens is, I feel like I shouldn't even say this for the other snipers that are going through it, but
well, then don't if you don't want to.
That's all good.
I would imagine it's changed. I imagine they changed things up.
So what happens is you go through a packing list. That's what we call it. What you should show up with. MREs, 550 cord, boots, socks, so on and so forth. You get a packing list. And you show up to this sniper platoon, and they gave me like, okay, on Monday you have to be here at 3:30, and you know you're going through the NDOC, and it sucks. You don't know how long it's gonna last. You don't know what you're gonna experience. You just show up, but you get that packing list. The night before, I was riding four-wheelers out in this desert, like 2.5 hours away. And I was a young kid. So riding four-wheelers, hand gets burned up on the fire. But then I still had to be there for the sniper and dog. And I was like, so I showed up. And what they did is they had us lay out our rucks, and that's your pack. They had us lay them out, and they had us pull everything out, and they went through the packing list. So this is attention to detail, and this is why I'm bringing it up, because linemen have to have the same thing, in my opinion. They have to have that attention to detail, or you could affect somebody else. So we laid it all out, and they went through everything. They made sure we had it. They said we had to have 50 feet of 550 cord. What a handful of individuals did is they brought 100 foot, 150 feet, just a roll of 550 cord. They weren't told to bring 100 feet. They were told to bring 50 feet. Gone. They kicked them out right there. So it was probably 2 weeks long, just over 2 weeks. I mean, they put us through the ringer. And there was close to 30 of us that started. I think there was 3 or 4 of us that completed it. But that first cut, as in go back to your unit, it was because they didn't do attention to detail, the importance of it. And every Thursday in the Marine Corps, every Thursday, you can go to a Marine Corps base right now. Thursday night, they're going to have what's called field day. They have to clean their rooms. Like, very
meticulously.
Yep, very detailed. Because Friday morning, their leadership is going to go in there and inspect it. And it's because they're looking for that attention to detail. If you're taking care of the small things, I don't have to worry about the big things. And that's what it is. So whenever they said bring 50 feet of 550 cord, okay, 50 feet, measured it out, had it packed. If I didn't have it measured out, they would have sent me back to my unit. And then, so you go through the sniper and dog, and then from there, that gives you the right to train with sniper and dog. Same thing with an apprenticeship as a lineman. It gives you the right to be with them. So you work as a groundsman and you prove yourself, then it gives you the right to be there. It gives you the right to be a part of the apprenticeship. Same thing, hand in hand. I've talked about it countless times. And then from there, if you top out, you become a journeyman lineman, right? So in the Marine Corps, they call it a PIG. And it's called a professionally instructed gunman. You have the right You're an apprentice. You have the right to train with linemen. And then once you went through the training that they offer, and then from there, you go to sniper school. You become a hog, a hunter of gunmen. Apprentice to lineman. So whenever I say, again, hand in hand,
yeah,
it makes sense. It does. Totally. Like, you earn that right.
Imagine this is something that a lot of people don't understand about the sniper community as well. Is like, it's not always just like pulling the trigger, right? You talk about this attention to detail. So why, as a sniper, do you have to have such an attention to detail?
So
what's your job?
So at least, I can speak on the Marine Corps, as sure. in other branches might have different examples. You're called a scout sniper, as in your job is to scout and be a sniper. So whenever we were in country, it was to collect data, collect information first. So an infantry unit would be struggling in the area that they were at, and they would send us out. And it wasn't to pull the trigger so much. It was to collect data and information and bring it back and relay it. So you were a scout first. There's countless missions that we were sent on, and our only job was to get out there, not be seen, and just collect information. That was our job. And then on top of that, whenever it's said not to be seen, so if we're collecting data on a certain location and it became kinetic, as in triggers were starting to be pulled, we would do everything not to pull the trigger, and it's because we're not supposed to be seen. What we would do is we would call whatever air is on station, and by that it means there's a gunship in the area that we could call, and we would have them drop a bomb or
whatever they needed to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're called a scout sniper for a reason. You scout. It's not so much pulling the trigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you operate as a sniper?
So I did the 31st MEU, 2 trips to Afghanistan, and the 31st MEU. And my first trip to Afghanistan, that was an interesting one. So what happened was they always send you ahead of time, as in so you can climatize to the environment. And so it's about 2 weeks. So they send you there, you're hanging out in kind of a safer environment, and it's so your body builds up to where you're going. And then there's a handful of stories with this one. So during that time, while you're climatizing, they're also prepping you for what you're about to encounter. And there was it's not my story to tell.
Fair enough.
He's from Alabama. He was a cook, really good guy. But there was no roads going into Afghanistan, like the location that we're going to. So everyone had to come with us, as in if you were a cook, mechanic, didn't matter. You had to come with us. So then they put him on our team, this guy from Alabama. And we're practicing, like jumping off the helo, like so on and so forth. And anyways, they pick us up or no, we get to the tarmac, which is, we're waiting on the birds to show up. And this is the largest helo assault since Vietnam. Like, that was us. And we're laying there. And whenever I say laying there, this is like 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night. And we're just on our packs, just waiting. And it's not because we were being cocky or arrogant. We were just, what do we do next? You know? And then the birds show up, the helicopters. And when they show up, we get on, and, you know, we have certain signals that we give each other. And there's certain things that occur, but eventually we were dropped off. And come flying off that helicopter, and we're just sitting there waiting. They dropped us off before sunrise, and we're just like, what do we do next? Like, we're just gonna sit here and wait? Like, what's going on? The sun comes up, we start moving, and that first round, it cracked, and the fight starts. So then from there, this guy from Alabama, he was trained in a different field than what we were trained in. And so what we did was we had him carry ammo in his pack. And the machine gun was going down, as in running out of ammo. So I yelled at him, like, again, goes back to why we yell in the military. I yelled at him, and I said, throw us some ammo. So he did, but it was like, it was out there, like, as in, to get to it, you would have to be exposed. And I was, okay, got to do something. So I crawled out of there, went and grabbed the ammo, and I threw it at the machine gunner that's pulling the trigger. And RPG went off. I get tossed into a ravine, a creek. I get tossed in there. They pulled me out, and I said, I'm good. Like, let's keep moving. And then from there, we're moving up to a compound. And whenever we say compound, the reason why we call it that is, imagine your house, but it's all made out of mud. And then outside of it, instead of having a fence, it's all mud. It's this mud wall. That's why we call it a compound. So at the time, we were sprinting towards it to keep the fight going. And then we look back, and the interpreter, I'm definitely not going to say his name, but he's still out in that field, as in he stopped, he froze. So I went sprinting back, and I laid down next to him. I've got the radio, and I said to him, dude, if we stay here, I said, we're done. I said, here in a second, and again, I had the radio, and I said, here in a second, I said, you're going to hear the machine guns going off. I said, whenever you hear those, we're getting up and we're running, and we're getting up there. So I get on the radio with the team that I was working with, and I said, start rocking those guns, start rocking them. And they lit it up. And I, like, pulled, and him and I get up, and we sprinted. We blew the doors off. And this is my very first experience over there. And then from there, we get inside the compound, and we start filling up, we call them camelbacks, like water. Yeah. We start filling them up, and the adrenaline goes away. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, This isn't a game. This isn't a movie. This is real. Like, you're in the fight, but we hadn't reached our target goal, our phase line, as in where we needed to be. So we had to go back out there, but the adrenaline wore off. So we're lining up and we're getting ready to head back outside this compound that we just took over because we had a goal to accomplish. And honestly, yeah, I didn't want to go out there. Like, it was a real fight. Like, there was bullets flying everywhere. But then I had to worry about him and him, as in, I'm not going to let them go out there by themselves. So we start walking out there, fight picks up again. We get to the next location where we're supposed to be, and the sun's starting to set, and we go to the village elder, and we said, hey, is there somewhere that all of us can settle down for the night? And he said, the only location that's big enough in this area is the school. And he said, but the Taliban had chained it up and kids aren't allowed to go to school because there was girls going to school there. And we said, we can take care of that. So we went to the doors, blasted the chains off, went inside, stayed the night. And then we spent the next week or two like fighting. And then we finally got settled into a location. But the bad part is, with the Taliban and what they were doing, what they were against was females going to school. Like, there was kids that would come up to us and they had acid burned faces. They'd throw it on them. And like, it struck something with us. And we fought our asses off, and then we had no re-support. There was helicopters that would come in. They would bring us ammunition, water, food, but they would also bring us ice. And it was because they felt bad for what we were doing, as in the fight that we were in. So that was my first introduction into being a Marine. And I'm proud of it. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm proud of it. I love being a Marine. Yeah. But that was my first fight.
I imagine there was lots more. Walk through the moment you got shot.
Okay. So that was my second deployment. So the neat part about this sniper community is they don't point men. In a regular infantry unit, that is the low guy on the totem pole, sweeping for IEDs. In the sniper community, it is based off of your experience, as in your job assignment, what you're going to do in the sniper community. There was this guy he actually grew up in California. And then there was me. He had been to Iraq. I'd been to Afghanistan. So we were the ones that had at least some experience in country. That's what we call it. And we were discussing job assignments. Well, I had seen the IEDs and bombs that they set up in Afghanistan. Like, I'd seen it before from the previous deployment. And again, the sweeper, that's normally the new guy. And I said, no, like, I've seen them, I'll take it, I'll do it. So I was an NCO, and I was a sweeper for a sniper platoon. And there's this specific part of Afghanistan that hadn't been obtained. And we showed up, and it wasn't pretty. It was an ugly fight, and we were just working our way up. We were working our way up, and we get to the northernmost region of that location, and whenever we showed up, like, we knew it was bad. Like, you could see it on their faces, as in the infantry unit that was there. We could see it. Like, it was bad. Whether you want to put this in or not, I was there 2 days, and somebody took their pistol, shot themselves in the hand, and they said, I would rather leave here as a private, as in getting discharged for doing that, than not leaving here. Like, this was a bad area, and that's how we knew it. And then they sent another sniper team. So we were the first ones there. They sent another sniper team. And they show up. That's not common. As in, there's one sniper team that's positioned with an infantry unit. To see two there is very uncommon. So that one showing up, we were like, okay, something's going on. But even worse than that, a third sniper team shows up. And we were like,
damn.
Time to go to work. Yep. So they sent us out, and not going to go into it, but we were satelliting, and the fight started, and I ended up getting hit. I was up there in the front. I ended up getting hit, and Evan, no shit. This guy from Florida here, he's in Florida now. He's the corpsman, and we call him docs, like, yep. Medics, doc. He comes running up, and he said, he was saying, Jefferson. I said, Doc, I'm pretty sure they know where we're at. They just shot me. But during that time...
Yeah, stop whispering.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they know we're here. They know we're here. So then... he's there, and he said, I have to get you out of here. But prior to that, after I got shot, you ever seen a little kid, like, they're running, and they fall, and they scrape their knees, and they're like...
Yeah.
They're, like, dumbfounded.
Yeah. It's like, what just happened?
Yeah, what just happened? That's essentially, what I was going through.
Where were you shot?
Yeah, left leg. And so I went through that pause moment, and then I was like, I have to address this, as in I have to take care of this. So I pulled the tourniquet, I had it back here, put it on my leg, and I started cinching it down. Like, you have to tighten those things. And honestly, that was worse than the gunshot.
I don't doubt it. I've heard that, actually. And you're shot just above the knee, just like for anyone listening, right? Just above the knee.
Yep.
Right. So you're like, it's critical that you get this thing taken care of too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. There was, blood was.
Yeah.
So I'm cranking it down, and it's not stopping. So I keep pushing it, and %, I thought that the cranking it was going to make me black out. And I'm inside a canal. So I'm inside this canal, I'm cranking it down, I'm trying to get the blood to stop. But at the same time, I'm still in a fight. Like, I still have to fight. So I'm doing everything to make the blood stop. And then I raise up, like the blood still hasn't stopped. And I raise up and I go to shoot. And click. Nothing. So I lay back down, and I've got my ruck on, I've got my pack on. I lay down, and just enough of my chest was above the water. I'm still trying to crank it. I think I'm going to pass out because I'm cranking it. But I start taking my rifle apart. I get my rifle apart, and I put...
Like on your chest?
On my chest, yeah.
Damn.
So I take it apart, and I grab it out, and I've got it in the water, and I'm doing this. Put it back together. I raise up, nothing. So I have to lay back, and I do it again, and the whole time, we're getting shot at. And then Evan's like, I got to get you out of here. And I'm like, dude, I got to get this rifle rocking first. So I take it apart again. I get the bolt, cleaning it, put it back together. I raise up, pull the trigger, it shoots. And then so I lean up against the ravine, and he pulls me out. I'm fighting, and he's literally at my leg, and he goes, this is gonna hurt. And he's taking gauze, and he's shoving it into my leg. And it was I'd rather it hurt than be dead. Sure. So I keep fighting, and he's working on my leg the whole time. And then, and I'll say his name, Aiden. Aiden got in front of me while the doc from Florida is working on my leg. Aiden got in front of us, and then he just started rocking the saw. So he essentially, he was protecting us. And then after he got my leg stuffed with gauze, from there, this guy from Missouri, he popped smoke, and it was to signal the helos that were in the area, to signal them to come get us, or to come get me. And then during that time, the guy from Florida had my leg wrapped. Everything was good. And he's trying to get the
stretcher
put together, but he couldn't. And I said, Doc, I'm still good. Just give me someone's shoulder, just not yours, because he was 6'5".
Sure.
Yeah, he was tall. I would have been doing that.
Yeah.
And then Bothwell, he's from Illinois. He came running up, and he goes, I got you. So the helo's coming down, and I've got Bothwell's shoulder, and I'm basically hopping. And then Evan's right next to us. And even though he's a doc, he's still a fighter. As in, he knows how to handle.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get out there, we're getting close to the helicopter, but you can hear it ting, 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 ting. It's getting lit up. They're, yeah. So they lift up, and then the door gunner for that helicopter, he leans out and he does this, and he goes straight up. And then there's two other birds, and you see them dip their noses, and they come flying in and just light the place up. And we're laying out there the whole time, just waiting. There's not much we can do. We're pretty exposed. Anyways, they light the place up, and it gets quiet. Whenever air is on station, sure. It gets quiet. So after they do that, they reset, and then that other bird comes down. And then it was Air Force PJs, and there's a reason why I'm saying that. So I get on the bird, we take off, and then the door gunner of that helicopter, he goes, "You good?" I said, "Yeah." And then he pointed at a headset right next to me. And he goes, put that on. I said, okay. So I put it on. And he goes, are you sure you're good? You need anything? And me being this small town kid from Arkansas, I did the universal sign for, I said, yeah, dip. And he goes, yeah. He threw me a can of dip because, you know, I was in that.
For sure.
Canal. I was in the, yeah. So all of it was swamped. And I don't know, we're maybe 5 minutes into the trip. And he goes, you see the wrapping, the cargo wrapping. He said, put your hands through it. Like, as in...
Yeah. Make yourself a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why? And he said, we got to go back. And I said, is it our team? And he goes, no, it's not your team. It's your unit, but it's not your team, which is irrelevant. And he goes, we're not going to be picking up. We're going to be shooting. I said, okay. So I wrapped my hands in the cargo netting. And then I feel that helicopter just dive. And he is lighting it up. And we got that Marine on there. And we get to the hospital location. And, you know, they're getting me off. And I take off one of my dog tags. Like, I rip it off and I hand it to him. And he goes, brother, not necessary. We do this all day. We got you. And I said, yeah, but you're keeping this. So I get inside, and there was a lot going on. Like, that hospital, there's a lot going on. And one of the nurses, she was actually British. She was trying to politely say to me, there's a lot worse situations going on that we need to address, opposed to a gunshot wound to the leg.
Yeah.
And I said, I remember trying to say to her, don't worry about it. Like, I'm good. And I remember going to sleep, and then I woke up like 2 days later, and my leg was, in the condition that it was. But naturally, you want to pick up the phone and you want to beat a phone call. And what I mean by that is, whenever you're injured overseas, it's like common knowledge as far as with military people. There's a phone call that goes out, and it tells your family, Madison, Jefferson has been wounded in combat, but it doesn't go into detail. It's very monotone. And so you want to beat that phone call. So immediately, whenever I woke up, give me a phone. Like, give me a phone right now. So I made the phone call, and I said, yeah, I was shot, but I'm good. Like, I'll be just fine. But the Marine that we went back to pick up, he got shot from here to here. Like, it went right through his face and teeth. Yeah, not good. So he's next to me, and whenever he woke up, he was like, I knew what he was doing. He was trying to express that he wanted a phone to beat that phone call. Mm-hmm. And the Marine Corps, another tradition, we call each other devils, like, hey, devil. And so whenever he was trying to make that phone call, I said, hey, devil, like, if you call your parents right now, and with this, it's going to scare them. And I said, just chill. Like, don't make that phone call. You're going to scare them. And I said, just chill out. But yeah, that was the day that I got the Slow Moving Award, Purple Heart.
Damn, dude. Well, thanks for sharing that. Where does it go from there? Because now we're entering this part that is like your re-entry now, right? Because that's it as far as military career, right? The beginning of the end for a military career, right? Or do you go back? Do you get better and go back? Or is that kind of like the beginning of the end for the military career?
So what happened was I took the shot, and then like, I had every intentions of doing 20 years. Like that's the retirement age for somebody in the military. I had every intentions for it. And then medically, they told me, yeah, you can stay in, but you just can't do this. Like, you can't be a sniper. You can't be in the infantry. So from there, you start pursuing other avenues. So for me, I went on the 31st MEU, and then from there, I went to combat water survival instructor, like doing that. Right? And then it was, well, if I can't stay in this field, I'm not going to push papers in the military. I'm going to find something else. So during that time, I started working with Bungee America while being in the military. And whenever I left the military, I started going to college with Santa Monica. And then I was offered a job with Murphy Hoffman Company. Great company, they are. They're very solid, but the reason why like I stepped into that position was because it was back home in Arkansas. So I grew up in Arkansas, but then the work opportunities, you want to be closer to home. So I went from Arkansas to California, and then California, I saw an opportunity with Arkansas, so I went back. And then from there, because I received the Purple Heart, it led me to the Wounded Warriors Outdoors. And then that's where I met the Wobnegger family. That's where I met the leadership within Quanta Services, because they support that program. It took me hunting in Canada. And then, so I met, Mr. Hogman, Mr. Wobnegger, Phil, like all of them. And the first hunt, the one that I was talking about, I didn't end up getting a bear, but I was there, working with those other guys. So because I didn't get the bear, Mr. Wobnegger and his family said, come back. Come back. So I did. And while I was there, I tagged out in day 2. And then what Mr. Wobnegger did was he goes, you know how to work a chainsaw? I said, yes, sir. And then so we went out and we were cutting lanes, because some of these guys are in wheelchairs.
Sure.
So they have to have lanes that they can see and they can shoot. And then the next day he goes, you know how to push cattle? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you know how to ride a horse? I said, yes, sir. So that's what we did the next day. And then from there, he goes, where do you work? What do you do? And I explained to it with MHC. And then he goes, how about you come work for Quanta? Well, he didn't say Quanta. He said, how about you come work for us? And then in that moment, I didn't understand who he worked for. I thought it was a bear hunting community.
Sure.
And I was like, there's no retirement.
Yeah, because your connection to this is like wounded. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, there's no retirement.
You really have no idea what this guy does other than
bear hunting. Yeah. Gotcha. I had no idea.
Ranching or something. No.
Yeah. So I was like, think I'll stick with MHC. Like I don't see that long term.
Sure.
So it didn't happen. And then it took, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And then finally, I learned what the industry is and what they do. And I took him up on it. And he goes, go to work, North Houston Pole, like, earn your keep. And what is unique about that bear hunting trip, that very first one, is so I had been on different hunts and what we do, or like there's all kinds of organizations that support the wounded veteran community. But I was there and they were pushing this veteran in a wheelchair, like Dave was. He was pushing him out to get him to a location where there could possibly be a bear. And then it was me and Chance, Dave's son, kind of just hanging back, just watching, observing, and just walking behind him. And Dave, the dogs, because we had the dog truck, Dave looks back and he goes, shut those fucking dogs up. And it was like, I can relate to this, as in, don't treat me like I'm I'm some cripple or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm not saying they're bad.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I'm saying he treated me like I was a person, and I could respect that. And so whenever he did that, it was like, yeah, this is the environment that I want to be in. This is the environment I want to be around. And from then on out, not even connected to the Wounded Warriors Outdoors or Quanah or anything else. That's one of my favorite families in the world.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up a little bit.
Sure.
I want you to connect with the people that are in the spot or getting close to that spot that you were in, that spot of transition. What were you going through then? Did you kind of have, like, you mentioned, hey, I was looking for something or some way to get closer to home, like everybody does, as far as like find a career, right? But did you have any idea what you wanted to do? Like what maybe industry would be that you'd want to get into, or like how did that whole like transition go? And why maybe like what you know now about this industry, why is it a good fit for people like you coming out of the military?
So as far as the line industry, I knew nothing about it. Zero. I couldn't name one lineman back home in DeQueen, even though there is copious amounts. There's plenty of them. Knew nothing about it. And the reason why I didn't know about it is because, again, going through high school, you have recruiters that'll show up for the military, or you'll have a student counselor that they only push college, things like that. They don't push the trades. Mm-hmm. And that, again, led to me, I didn't know what a lineman was. And I would say this, if someone that goes to the military, someone, steps into this industry, it should never be about the money. It shouldn't. But at the end of the day, you're going to go from the military making $35,000 a year to 80 to 120, somewhere in that ballpark. In the beginning, you're just starting out. But just like me, I knew nothing about it. Like, I've said it before. I call them telephone poles. I really did.
So does everybody else.
Yeah. Oh, telephone pole.
I'll always correct you. It's a power pole. I don't see any telephone on that.
I would say the individuals coming out of the military, if you're willing to work for it, earn it, do it. This is a perfect career. Those individuals that are listening, that are coming out of high school, don't rely on that, student counselor, so on and so forth, as I did, as in
there's options, right?
There's so many
more options, and it's just like it's an understanding and a knowing. I heard this quote the other day: advertising is really just the process of making known. Well, the process of making known that trades exist and that they're actually like a legit career option for so many thousands of people that never even know that they exist, or that only hear about college and university because of the propaganda that's pushed out and the marketing and the way that they're advertised. The trades they don't seem to have the same representation as colleges and university, but great, fantastic option. So yeah, support what you're saying, obviously.
So that is probably like the biggest thing that pisses me off is whenever kids are coming out of high school, the blue collar, like the trades, is not represented.
For sure.
It's 100%. As in, like, kid, if you're willing to put in the work, it'll secure a very valuable future for what you want, like as in your family, so on and so forth.
Heck yeah.
And because it's not represented in high schools, as in the student counselor, that's what we call it here, because it's not represented. Like, that really does piss me off. As in,
yeah,
kid, you can come out of here and you'll be making a lot more than your high school teacher if you're willing to put in the work.
It's not even, like you said, it's not necessarily about the money. The money's great. The money can be fantastic, and it definitely supports a lifestyle that is you're going to be more than blessed with. But it's more as well, just like it supports that person. Like, it's the thing that person's supposed to do. They're not necessarily supposed to go to college. There's not a career option for them in college. It doesn't suit who they are as people, right? The trades fit a certain demographic of people, but not all of that demographic knows about them. That's all we're trying to do, is just like reach that group of people that, hey, this connects with. And that's what we're trying to support. And then even further, you take that a step further, what's that military community that also connects with trades, but connects with the values and the shit they learned in the military, works really well with this trade. So you decided to give line work a go. Talk about what that looked like from you, and like what was happening with your leg at that time, like, or by that time as well.
Sure. So I was given the opportunity to work with a quanta company, and it took me to a bear hand crew in Louisiana. And during that time, knee ended up getting ripped, and I pushed through it as far as I could. But at the same time, I was learning about the industry, the trade, line work, and very much I respect what you guys do.
Sure.
And from there, who's it? Chris Osinas, he goes, Madison, you're going to the line school. Okay, what is that? So I ended up at the Lazy Q, and I'm going through the line school, and while I was there, my knee rips again. And it all stems from the gunshot. So it rips again, but I had already completed the climbing portion, and then I go and I get a scope real quick, and from there, I I go back to North Houston, working for them. Chris, he put me on a crew, and it was like the very first day. I stepped out of the trailer, like the tool trailer, knee rips, and what do I do from here? And then I got, it's part of the industry. You have to travel. So I went from South Texas to Louisiana within 2 weeks. And I'm there and my knee's ripped, but you still got bills to pay. You still have responsibilities. And from there, I worked there for probably a year, 2 years. And then Chris finally comes up and he said, "What's going on?" And I said, "My leg, my knee." And he goes, "Dude, go get it fixed." He said, "You can't take care of yourself. You can't take care of your family. You can't support, the crew unless you're taken care of. Go get your knee fixed." And then at that time, it was an extensive surgery. They put a cadaver bone into my leg, and they had, at the VA, they had talked about my line of work, what I do, and they said, "No, that's not going to happen. We're buying you time right now." And then Quanta, and this is another thing that I really appreciate about Quanta, is Quanta had my back on this. They said, "Okay, you can't complete this, like what we do as a contractor, but you can find other veterans. You can locate other veterans. So come work for us. We're not concerned with your supporting Quanta. We're not concerned with you supporting the IBW, NICA, ETA, all those things," right? They said, "Just show up and find other veterans that are worth a damn." And that was Dave W. And I said, "Yes, sir. I'm game." And Duke, Reggie, all of them have all supported it, as in they supported veterans coming into this industry. And it's because they know what it's like to be exhausted. They know what it's like to sleep in the dirt. They've done that, as in people that have been in the military. And I'm not saying everyone's
Sure.
qualified, but they have seen that highlight in individuals that are willing to, tornado rips apart a town, I'll go sleep in that town and I'll go fix those lights. I'll make sure they're okay. And to me, it's amazing.
Yeah. What's the primary program that you're working for? Like, talk about VEEP. I talk about VEEP all the time on the podcast, as you know. But for anyone listening, VEEP stands for Veteran Electrical Entry Program. And let's take it away to give your talk about what this program is, because there's lots of programs out there, and I want to preface that too. And I hope to have Martin in here, soon, from helmets to hard hats. Like, we've all heard of all these other programs that exist, and it's great that they do exist, because vets need to get connected with trades. There's lots of programs. What's the primary program that you and Quanta are supporting to help vets find this industry?
So there's countless programs that they're out there, and they support veterans. All right, Wounded Warriors Outdoors. That's how I was introduced into this.
Sure.
There's Warriors to Wingmen. That's a huge organization. Like, they do amazing things. And then what happened was VEEP, Veteran Electrical Entry Program, was created through the IBW, NICA, and the ETA. And then Quanta Services steps in. And what it did was it opened a door for countless veterans to get into this. So whenever a veteran exits the military, just like me, just like Mr. Coulson, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do next. As in, how many jobs are available for somebody that just pulled a trigger for the past 8 years? Not a whole lot. But how can you relate it to what you're going to do in the civilian world?
Yeah.
Right? So
what jobs really fit for that type of individual, right?
Law enforcement, that's about it.
Yeah, you got like a handful like that you really know of, unless you find something like this who's saying, hey, this might be a good fit for you. Like, have you heard of this? Yeah. And it's like, oh, no shit.
So they're willing to put in the work. They know what it's like to work long hours. They know what it's like to sleep in the dirt. And I hate to put it that way, but that's what it is. Linemen, like, you're going into a town that's been ripped apart.
Yeah.
And you're sleeping in the truck. You're driving an hour and a half to find a hotel, right? So linemen go through that. Well, the individuals that were in the military, they did the same thing. And then on top of that, in the line community, you have this brotherhood, this connection. You guys have worked together, fought together, as in helping to support a community. And it just marries over from a lineman to what these individuals from the military have experienced. It works hand in hand. The stories I hear linemen talk about, it's like, you might as well have been in the military.
Oh, 100%. 100%. How do you apply? What's the credentials you need to apply for the program? How does the application process work? Where do they go? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So if someone exiting the military wants to apply to the program, you go to the website, into-veep.com. That's IN, the number 2, and then VEEP. So Indio, Nano, the number 2, Victor, Echo, Papa.com.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's actually right.
Nailed it.
I got hung up on that one.
I mean, you know why I know that? I've been stuck on aviation. I want to get a pilot license. So I've been stuck on like watching aviation YouTube videos. And so I'm learning some of that lingo. I had no idea.
So fixed or rotor?
Fixed wing for now. Yeah. I want a fixed wing license. And I'm honestly stuck on, I know, sorry, a little side tangent here, but like stuck on watching Alaska bush planes, like the Piper Cubs. Just like can't get enough of that. It's all over my Instagram feed. Just watching Pipers land on sandbars and go fishing and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I've been learning call signs that way.
Can we try it one more time? All right. So into-veep.com, India, Nano, the number 2, Victor, Echo, Papa.com.
Love it. Nailed it. And what's the credentials for, like, what are you looking for? What are you looking for in an application? Because you say you review these things, right? So like, what are you looking for?
So what happens is Jason Inelli with IBW NICA ETA, what he does is he'll go through the initial application process, as in he'll review the resume and what you submit, and then from there you're set up with an interview with myself, and then those individuals that are set up with an interview, when you apply, I would say the number one thing that we're looking for is, with or without us, are you going to become a lineman? As in, if we didn't exist, would you still become a lineman? To me, that's golden. As in, I interview somebody and they say, I always ask, what's your plan B? Like, what's your next option if you're not accepted into this program? And they say, well, I'm going to sign up with Mo Valley, Swellcat, Cellcat, NEAT, Cal Nevada. I'm going to be a groundsman, and I'm going to work my way through the trade. Then that tells me if we didn't exist, they're still going to become a lineman. And that's the people we're looking for. As in,
I've found this. I'm interested in it. I don't care if you're going to give me an opportunity or not. I'm going to find my way there.
Push come to shove, I'm going to be a lineman.
I love that. Yeah, that's that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you hear that it's about the money, you know, even keep that to yourself. Yeah, kind of thing, right? Like, yeah. Even if it is about, keep that to yourself. Don't make that your opening statement.
No. Well, I mean, you were the lead instructor there.
Yeah.
For what?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so whenever you saw an individual come in, whether it's military or not, operating unit, and they said money, or they were talking about other aspects other than, I'm going to be a lineman, like, no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And you guys do the best job you can, obviously. And this has been a process that you've refined over the years now of picking the right individuals, because really it is that kind of a process. Like, you guys out there, you get on the phone. I say this to you when you reach out to me too. I'm like, I'll put you in touch with the guy that makes the decision. Like, it's no like harebrained scheme, or you don't have to go through some automation system. Like, you're talking to Jason or yourself, and you're getting on the phone and you're getting interviewed. You know, there's a bit of a process there, but like, basically you're going to be talking to a human, and it's a human that's been through it, and they've got some systems and checks and balances put in place. So if you make it into this program, it's up to you. It's like, you're the only person that's going to pass or fail, or make a pass or fail for yourself. But the great thing about the program is it gives you a good opportunity to see whether this is like something for you or not. But be certain, if you get to that point, don't throw shade. Don't take it lightly. Don't take it lightly. It's for real. Yeah. And it's not just because you got to that point, it's not a guaranteed pass, right? There's still a lot of work to be done to get out of it and get that, get there.
100%.
Yeah.
And then talking about people coming into the trades, especially the line trade. Another big one is females coming into the industry. I feel like whenever I go to recruiting events, like, they bypass our booth, or
Sure, it's maybe not the thing they're looking for. Well, that's the feeling you get.
They don't understand that they can accomplish this.
100%.
And then Britannia, VEEP, huge, as in she's doing everything to get more female veterans involved with this, or just females in general. Yeah. And they automatically, they see them climbing the poles and everything that we do, and they just automatically assume this isn't something they can accomplish. But it's like, no, you can definitely put on some hooks. Yeah. You can definitely climb. Like, this is a trade for you too. Yeah. Like, don't sit back on your heels. Yeah. Like, let's go.
After acceptance to the program, what's involved with the program? I've talked about it a lot, so I can run through it quick from my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some other industry partners like Milwaukee and Buckingham supply tools, all free of charge. If you are accepted to the program, you get paid while you go through a 15-week training program, all supported by Quanta Services. Stay there, room and board, 15 weeks of pretty intense training, pre-apprenticeship training, and then you come out of that with what? You go through the rest of that part.
Okay. So that's the neat part about the program, and that's why I'm so proud of it. So they're supporting individuals, Quanta, IBEW, NICA, ETA, and everyone you just listed. They're supporting veterans going through it. Yeah. And then if they are accepted and if they complete the program, from there, that's where the IBW, NICA, and ETA steps in. So they're going to be at minimum direct interviewed by an area-wide. So they jump ahead, and the reason why they jump ahead is because they've had focused training with the same curriculum that they would receive in 1 year with the IBW, NICA, and ETA.
So it's like condensed accelerated training, right?
Yes, yeah. Yes. And it's all provided through Quantum. So
that's through Quanta Services, for you guys listening, like through Quanta Services at the Lazy Q Ranch.
Yes. Yeah. And then what makes it unique is there's countless veteran programs out there, but the majority of them require payment, whether it's through the GI Bill, so on and so forth. This is all provided through Quanta Services. It's all provided through the sponsors and supporters of this VEEP program. So whether it's Milwaukee, whether it's helmets to hard hats, Buckingham, so on and so forth, they're all providing this gateway for these veterans that are exiting the military to provide a future for themselves, their families, and then it's opening doors for thousands of veterans that are going to come behind them. Again, if we had the ability to support everyone that applies, yeah, 100% we would. Right now, we have the capacity to support 60 of them twice a year.
That's 120 veterans with an amazing opportunity.
But we answer that call, as in we're supporting them. As in, dude, if you're willing to put in the work, let's go. Come over here. Quanta's got family for you. 100% we do.
Love that, dude. Well, buddy, I've had you for over 2 hours.
Yeah.
You thought you couldn't do this, hey?
Yeah.
Proud of you. You got anything else to say for these guys? Anything else to leave them with? I'll, of course, put all the links to this, and, we'll promote the shit out of this on social. So, anything else to say to the guys?
I would say this is going to be kind of deep, so
fly at it.
Through my military experience, the hardest part is getting on social media. And somebody that I served with has chosen to take their lives. And I would say to everybody that's hearing this that was in the military, brother, I'm not entirely sure what you're going through. I hope I do. But whenever you choose to make that decision, what you're doing is you're opening the door for everybody that looked up to you while you were in the military. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for them, because you're opening a door that makes it easier for them.
Appreciate you, dude.
Yep.
Thanks for doing this. Love you.
Me too. Ryan, you're the man.
All right, guys. Once again, hope you got some value out of the episode. I know I did. I enjoy every single one of these conversations, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. One more time for the folks in the back, if you could like, subscribe, follow, make sure you're following either in audio form and video form on YouTube. Much appreciated. All right, guys, play safe. Peace.